We're designing and building a window and a frame for an exterior door. In part 6, we're going to miter the corners and fit the frame together. That's coming up right now. Alright, so the next step is cutting to miter these boards up and cut them at the proper angles and get things straightened out. There are a couple of ways of doing this. One is, of course, to use a miter box, which is what this is. And what you'll notice, you may or may not notice, you may not be able to see that I have bolted this to the table. The miter box has an edge on it, so it'll go up to the side of the table, and it'll set very nicely. And if you're going to use a miter box, then what you want to do, let's see which piece I want to cut. I'm going to cut this piece over here. And of course, a miter box, you just want to make sure that it's nice and clean, that it doesn't have a bunch of saw marks on it. And most of the time you're going to be cutting near the end. So you may want some way to support this. You're going to be putting force this direction. Now, the miter saw and the miter box, of course in this case I have it clamped to the box. A little more ideally it would be clamped to the table and through the box. This is okay, so that's one way of doing this, and it's obviously not a simple way. Now I'm going to borrow this clamp one more time because we're going to do instead of a miter box, we're going to try a miter table. Okay, so another option on the table for making these corner cuts, and basically it's a cut that pretty much just goes like this. And this is, of course, for part of the framing, right? Another way to do this is to use a miter table. And a miter table is pretty much just this thing, a miter saw. And it's not a miter saw, this is a regular radial saw attached to a miter table. And you can probably imagine that I've already taken a bit of time in setup. Of course here, obviously I want my pieces to be square up to each other after I cut so that they'll glue together nicely. So one thing I've done is I've just make sure that between these two pieces, because each cut is going to set one part of it. Now, even if these are off a little bit, they'll still match up because the one that goes here is the one that matches up to that one. So the one that gets cut here will match up to the one that gets cut there. So I've got a square, check and make sure that they are square. The other thing I'm going to do is making sure that they're square. The other thing that I'm going to do, besides making sure that they're square, is to make sure that they're at 45-degree angle to the, I'm going to use this right here. Alright, 45-degree angle to the table. And the way to do that is to have a 45-degree, a piece that's calibrated to 45 degrees, and just check it up against the edges that are going to be used to cut. I mean, I'm assuming that all this is squared up properly, and that's probably not a good assumption to make, but I'm going to make it anyway. And then, of course, check both sides. Yeah, actually, either side will do. If they're square to each other, they're going to be square to, you know, square. If one is square to the table and they're square to each other, then both are going to be square. So this one looks nice and squared up to that. They're not squared up, I mean, it's at a 45-degree angle, which is why I want these cuts to go. Now, you can either, as with the miter box, you can either lock this into place so you can hold it in place. You probably are not able to notice that this is a mini tooth saw. That's a mini is an M-A-N-Y, many tooths. Because you need something that's going to be a fine, that's going to make a fine cut. So I have the piece clamped here, and I'm getting. Okay, so I have the piece clamped. Of course, I want eye protection and ear protection. And the next step, of course, is to plug the saw in. Of course, I'm doing all this, the saw is not plugged in. Also making sure that the piece is still flat against the table. And of course, we're ready to cut. See where it's going to hit, pick it up above that. And the only issue I have is that it's not slicing all the way through. I had a short saw on here, as you can see, it's slicing most of the way. It's leaving a sliver. Here's the cut with the miter saw, and here's the cut with the table saw, with the miter table. The miter box and the miter table. The other part of this is going to be getting these dimensions right. Before I start cutting on these good pieces over here, I'm going to check with the crappy junk pieces to make sure everything is good. I had a thought in my mind of what to cut. I mean, what dimension we were going to cut this piece here. See, I've already got one side cut here. And then the other side has to be cut to some dimension, and we don't know what dimension that is just yet. But I have a clue. So the most important dimension is going to be the glass, or 20 inches wide by 24 inches long, and it's pretty much right on the money, 20 by 24. And when I'm looking at these pieces, that's the one dimension I have no control over. I can adjust a lot, but I can't adjust the size of this glass. This glass is fixed, unless I break it, and I'm trying to avoid breaking it. So 20 by 24, and that's going to be the dimension over here. Let's put the 24 mark right here. Where's 24? 24 is right there. And then, of course, that lines up with this mark right here. So that's where we need to make the cut. Now, when I made the cut on the 25, which is 1 inch down, it actually came out 1/8 of an inch deeper. And if I had cut this 1/16 of an inch deeper, what's going to happen, if I cut this smaller than the piece of the glass, what will happen is these pieces won't meet up. What will happen is if I make a piece of this, one of these pieces that's bigger than the glass or smaller than the glass, what will happen is I'll end up with a crack like that in between. Alright, so the glass, I've taken the glass out. Of course, it was boxed pretty nicely. Got one little mark on here. I assume it's a factory mark that they put there. Say, hey, this one's done. Ship it off. This one looks okay. Actually, You know, I might have to move this in just a hair, alright, just to get that. This is pretty durable glass. You know, like I said, I just unwrapped it. You know, I was figuring it's about time to make this frame. This is the frame that's going to sit inside that 21 by 25 inch hole, and then extend out to 27 inches, 1 inch on each side. So, alright, so we're up to that. Thanks for watching my program. If you like my videos, be sure and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And for an organized listing of my YouTube videos, go to my website, www.wherearemyplacebos.com, and click on videos. Have a great day.